You know what? I don't think I've ever sat down to write an email and thought, what shall I say? Maybe I've been looking for a perfect angle for what I wanted to say, the message I want to get out with, but I've never wondered about what to say because I always had a lot of ideas about what to write. But when it comes to speaking, I'm different. So maybe you have the other way around. But for example, back in the time when I more or less voluntarily grabbed a phone to call someone, I would always think beforehand, what shall I say? How shall I start this conversation? And at the moment, I'm the same about videos because videos are not my media. I'm a writer and I love writing, and I can sit down and write you an email right now without even having to think about it beforehand. I just get an idea and I start writing. But when it comes to talking, I think it's different because you have to think about it, especially if you don't want to edit for the next 4 hours just to get 4 minutes of video. So you have to think a lot beforehand, and maybe that's not my strong suit. I don't like to just sit and think. I know a lot of people do it and it's very healthy, and they get business ideas and all kinds of things, and they just take 1 hour a day or half an hour and they do nothing. Maybe they drink coffee, but other than that, they just sit and think. And then they get ideas for their business and ideas for what to write and ideas for what to say. And I think it's great, but I haven't been able to do it. It's like when I sit down to think, I need to do something. I can't just sit and think, that's boring. So I need to read a book. That ruins the whole purpose because you can't sit and think and read at the same time. You have to do one or both, not one or both, one or the other. You can't do both at the same time. But when it comes to writing, I think when I write, because just typing or writing with a pen helps me to formulate thoughts that I've had. For example, a short while ago, it must have been in November, I heard mentioned a program called Cortex to keep your notes in. And I hadn't heard about it before, and I have tried so many note-taking apps like Evernote back in the time, and Notion and Obsidian, and you name it. I think I've tried almost all of them, but none of them really resonated with me. So I thought I would go and check this Cortex out, and it was instantly love. Not just because of the system that is somewhat similar to Notion, but then again it's not, but because of the core note techniques that came with this bundle of software and courses, and I love them all. And with the core notes, you start with an idea, and it can be an idea you come up with yourself, or you read in a book, or you hear in a video, or somebody mentions it, and you think, oh, that's an interesting idea, let me write it down. I don't really know yet what to do about it, but I know there's something there. And then this system will work you through this idea. And for me, it's been amazing. You can start with a tiny, simple sentence, just an idea you grab from somewhere, and then you can see, okay, why did this idea grab me so much? What's the problem behind all this? What's a problem that people normally will do and which doesn't work, or why is this the solution maybe to a problem? So you write down the problem, or you can write it down, and then you can write down your thoughts about it. You can come up with examples to show what you mean or what you're thinking about. And it's all inside this core note system. You simply go through it point by point, and you start with one sentence, And today again, for example, I sent out a newsletter. I don't call those emails, but it's an email form. I sent out a newsletter of 975 words, and it was all based on one tiny thought. And then the system did the rest, and it was almost without any effort that I wrote this, because it all came through just by using the system on that one thought. But again, it's writing. I can't do the same in talking, I think. Maybe I could with some practice. But I think it's two very different ways of communicating. The first one we learn, of course, is probably body language. We scream when we are hungry or thirsty, or we want to sleep, or we want a new diaper. Later on, we use more body language, and then verbal language, verbal communication. And when we are around 5 or so, we learn to write, and that's when we learn to communicate in writing, and that's when we can go far. Video came much later in our communication in general. I just guess people who were born in 2010 or 2015 or 2020, they may have had video as one of their first communication forms, and that may change everything for them. But for me, one of the first was the spoken language, and then the written. And that's still my preferred language, and I still find that easier than just to talk, even though talking should be easier. So what do you think? What's easier for you? And will you challenge yourself to go out of your comfort zone and use the other form of communication? It could be interesting.